Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Community FC, where I've got another episode of the Roundup review coming for you, as always. We've got some exciting things to talk about this week. Notably, I think this episode, I haven't titled it yet, but it's probably going to be called Manager Roulette for you shall see in the episode why. But if you keep up with the football world, as I'm sure you all do listening here, then you're going to know why. So let me introduce my guest, as always. I've got my co-host, Rich.
Thank you very much for having me as usual.
Yeah, no, it's good to have you, buddy. Good to have you. And apologies in advance, me and Rich, if we sound a bit funny. Both of us are suffering with horrendous illness at the moment, which just seems to be going around and getting everyone. So we will try our best to not cough and whatever else we need to do on here and make it sound better. So I think we're just going to jump straight in. So I've got the week going again. I should say it's game week 11 for all the FPL managers out there again. But we're just going to jump straight into the game I want to talk about the most. And this week wasn't as exciting compared to last week with a lot of games. But I want to start at the West Ham Liverpool game because I think that's the really interesting one of the weekends. Do you want to kick off?
Yeah, sure. I mean, phenomenal result for the Hammers. They've been playing fantastically all season, really. And I think, this may be a bit of a wake-up call to a lot of the teams that are eyeing up for them top four spots. They've got grit. They've got determination. I think we saw a lot of Liverpool mistakes, honestly. On another day, we could realistically have seen the Liverpool win there. I think they were quite unfortunate, a lot of it. Obviously, scoring direct from a corner, put down as a Alisson own goal. You love to see it as a football fan. You love to see a direct corner go in. But yeah, on a different day, different referee might have given that as a foul against him. I think, they did well. They took the chances when they had them, which is not something I think Liverpool did particularly well. I think what we saw was a West Ham that tried to stifle Liverpool a lot, and they got away with it. As I said, they've got a bit of grit about them. The big bastard Hammers, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think the things I put down, which were the main talking points for me, was, in my opinion, it's three Alisson errors that have led to all three goals. Like, he could have done better every single one. Yes, you could said the Bonner jumping in front of him, but again wasn't given. So it is what it is. I think that again you could have seen that Cresswell challenge. I don't think it was a red, but I think you could have seen that be a booking, and that might have changed the play of the game with Salah or Mane attacking him there. That could have changed things as well. Mane had two perfect opportunities, and one specifically at the end where he totally should have got that header in, and that would have evened it up. But you said, yeah, it's grit and determination, and the Hammers are unified as a squad for the first time since I think they've moved to the stadium. That it's bouncing, the atmosphere is there, the Hammers are there, you can feel it, and that's really making an impact, and he's building something special again there. Liverpool will see its points dropped, I'm sure, but West Ham are now third. Liverpool are fourth. They overtook them. That was the battle for third place, and West Ham proved that they were very much up for it. And Liverpool need to kind of have a reassess and push on, because they can't keep dropping points like that, especially on a weekend, which we'll get to later, spoiler alert, where Chelsea have dropped points too. That's a big thing you can't afford to do. But yeah, I mean, fantastic grit from West Ham, fantastic all around. And, again, there was some positives to Liverpool. We wanted to quickly mention, we've said that Van Dijk hasn't really been up to scratch for most of the games he's come back. He had a hell of a game. Like, there was one tackle he put in particularly, which was outrageous, when it was like, people are like, is that a pen? It's like, no, it's just an unreal tackle from Van Dijk. So, there's positives there. But again, Klopp wasn't happy with the way the first goal went and stuff. It's given, move on, and they have enough firepower and talent to change that around. And Salah, so quiet all game. Like, if anything, it was Alexander-Arnold providing that spark for that team that week.
I think the two points I just want to touch on before we move on is the first one. I think West Ham are maybe one or two injuries away from a drop, though. Mainly Antonio, because I don't know who else they've got to sit up to go up top, and Antonio is a hamstring away from
very
being
injury
out for a
prone,
while.
so likely to happen.
He's very injury prone. Yeah. The other one is arguably Declan Rice, probably the most influential player. If Declan goes, if he leaves in the summer, or if he gets an injury, he's out for an extended period of time. I do think that a lot of their play from the back goes through Declan Rice. He's got a fantastic range of passing. I think you'll struggle to find a better dribbler in England at the moment as well. So I think that would be a worry. for me as a West Ham fan. The other thing I want to mention is Klopp's bitterness. Came out with a few salty remarks, didn't he, at the end of the match? And not the first time we've seen that from Klopp. What do you think about that? Do you think that is maybe a manager he's frustrated with how his team are playing, or do you think he's got some points?
I think it's a really difficult one. I think that you've seen it before where he gets a bit like that on certain results. He's always been like that and always been that manager. I like it because he protects his players a lot and takes a lot of the criticism to himself, which I think is very important for a manager to do. I do think he has a point in a sense, because I think there has been a lot of decisions that could have gone either way against Liverpool in recent weeks. So when they accumulate, obviously you're going to have issues with it, but so does all managers. But I think, again, they had the firepower to change that. And if Salah had, turned up a bit more, and if Mane had put a couple of them away, then it is the way it is. But you're going to have every week a manager's, unless they've won like 5-0 and it's been perfect, you're never really going to have complaints. But when something goes against you like that, then you're going to. So they're always going to have grievances, but we'll move on. But I do agree with you. I think West Ham are flying at the moment, phenomenal form, but they are a few injuries away from some serious issues, and then you might see them drop further down. But, as they kind of said in the interview, and David Moyes was very careful about what he said expectation-wise. If you're a Hammers fan, you should be celebrating, but I like the fact that he's excited and happy, but he's not getting too carried away, and is like, we're challenging in the top 4 teams, but we're not going for the title yet, which some people were saying, which is realistic, and I like that. Moving on, we're going to go to the Norwich-Brentford game, which I didn't think would be second on the Roundup review to talk about, if I'm honest, when I saw that fixture.
Second on Match of the Day as well, which is interesting. It's about time they got their first win of the season. It was a decent performance from Norwich, actually. I think they completely nullified Brentford for most of that game. The other thing, I did call it at the start of the season. Brentford weren't going to sustain it, and that's what, four losses on the bounce now.
I think, yeah, with 4 or 5, yeah.
Four or 5 losses on the bounce. I think it's 4 on the bounce. Losses for Brentford. I think teams have worked out what they're about. Great grit from Norwich, really, again, to pull themselves up, really. And I imagine there's a big talking point you're going to come into very, very shortly. But I just want to say, I was very disappointed with Ivan Toney, especially for the first Norwich goal.
Mm-hmm.
He cleared the ball badly.
Yeah.
And then just watched play around him. Didn't seem interested, in tracking back and chasing. And I just thought that, there's a couple of times in that game that, he just seemed like a bit of a spectator when Norwich had the ball. And I think, I don't know if I noticed that before. I don't know if he was having an off game. I just thought that's, it's not good attitude to have, really.
And it totally could have been. It was a bad clearance. And again, that ball watching thing, I think that was kind of the tale of 2 halves, or, I think that Norwich kind of really, for the first time this season, showed up in that first half, had a blinder. Then they did seem to fall off and let Brentford get back into it in kind of the second half. Definitely in the last bit, again, they were under the cosh a bit. But again, several things that we called actually between us, which was really funny to see, is that obviously, you said about Brentford falling off and people working them up. We're starting to see that. We also said last week about Norwich actually just trying, and they actually seem to unify and pull together, and they've kind of got points. But 2, Brandon Williams had a fantastic game, so they decided to actually start one of their lone players, like we said last week. And had a really good game actually for them. And you can see what can happen when they're trying to actually play some of the players and get some results. So maybe
Daniel Farke should have listened to Community FC a little bit earlier.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, it's actually quite good. I like the fact that we're backing up what we're saying, because lots of these weeks we're like, that week it happened, next week it happened. So that's good. Pukki turned up again. That's a big thing for them. Pukki's been really off the boil. He could have actually had maybe 2 or 3, but turned up. Their man of the match was obviously Norman, put in an absolute shift for them and did loads of work. But we'll get on to the kind of main thing, and it's going to happen a lot in this episode, which is why it's going to be called Manager Roulette, is obviously hours after the Norwich result and getting their first points for the season. Daniel Farke was sacked, and they're looking for a new manager. It's not going to be the first, as we'll talk about later on. A few things I just want to say is that with the whole transfer thing of managers now, I like the fact they stuck with him for so long because he went up and down and up and down. The fans love him, the squad love him, but obviously he's not getting results now, and they don't want to have the worst run, of all time in the Prem or anything like that. So they need to do something about it. The thing I've seen lots of people talk about is it too little, too late? And that's what I kind of want to put to you. Do you think that no matter who comes in now, it's very much you're going to be using those parachute payments in the Championship and building from there? Because from my perspective, I think it's way too late. I think they're still coming dead bottom of the Prem no matter what happens.
I just think this Norwich team is not a Premier League standard team. Regardless who you put in charge of that team, I don't think the players are there. Honestly, I think they are what they are. They're a team that they come up. They're too good for the Championship, but they're not good enough for the Premier League. No matter how much money they spend, they don't ever seem to have the staying power in the Premier League. Now, I've watched football for nearly 30 years, but I don't have the answer to that question. I don't know why Norwich are the way they are, because it's not just happened under Daniel Farke, really. We've had 2 or 3 seasons at a push consecutively in the Premier League. It's just the Norwich way. And when you think about it, they've had a couple of big name players in the last, but realistically, have any of them ever stayed to achieve anything? Have they had more than one of those, players at the same time? When season before last, when Norwich burst on the scene and Timo Pukki burst onto the scene, we thought he was going to be mustard, and he tailed off very, very quickly. I don't think it's too little too late, because I don't think there ever really was going to be a chance for them. They didn't. They spent a bit of money, but they didn't bring in quality. I don't think too much. The quality they did bring in was loan players.
Yeah.
And even then, arguably fringe players. Brandon Williams and Billy Gilmore, both from great teams. But we know they both got talent, but they're not getting games week in, week out. They're not the type of players that you're gonna be relying on when your back's against the wall.
Yeah.
Either. They don't have that commitment that a permanent signing would have. They know that whatever happens, they're going back to United, they're going back to City, to Chelsea at the end of the loan period anyway.
Yeah, but maybe potentially a new manager will kind of use them more and then kind of build on that for next season. And they can think, if that is a position they think they need to play the lone players more because they need to replace the current players in the squad, then that's the thing. I mean, we'll get onto it. Like, we think that we've heard of a couple of the front runners. Again, Frank Lampard seems to be the one that's mentioned more at the moment. Maybe somebody coming in with a different philosophy than Fark to maybe change that up and then build life for the future. Honestly, if it was Frank Lampard, it's probably not the worst club to pick, because he can then have the managerial experience in the year or two, depending if they bounce straight back in the Championship again, like he did with Derby, and then come up. And maybe that's the best way for him to do it, rather than being at the top and it not working out. I know a couple of other names that were mentioned. You were saying a minute ago, it's like Hasenhüttl from your team again. I think both of us have kind of dismissed that and been like, I don't see it happening. I think there's other clubs that we're going to talk about that need new managers that would be on that list higher, but I still don't think that he's going to go either way. But at the moment, it kind of looks like Lampard. But we'll move on. So the next game I want to talk about, I say talk, I'm going to rant as usual. We're going to go to my game again. I feel like it's going to be the same week for both of us.
We might have to start putting a timer in for you, mate.
I mean, to be fair, I'll start again with this one like I did last week. But actually, it's not going to be an angry rant this week. I hate to say it. It's going to be I'm not angry, I'm disappointed. And that's the style we're going for. So I've got quite a few things to go through. I'll try and be as quick as I can, and you can kind of wrap up the end. So first things first, shambles. And let's just be honest, it was a training game for City. It's literally nothing more than that. It was a training game for City, and nobody turned up. De Gea again put in some shifts. Arguably could have done better for the second goal, but it's not on his head that goal went in. Anybody from a defender wanted to actually try and clear that ball? No, nobody stuck a leg out. I saw Rio going absolutely mental on Twitter about it. There was no one even trying. And actually, when he went off, I don't know if you saw this on Twitter, he went off and he smacked the tunnel as he went down it and was fuming at the end. Probably didn't help that his birthday was the next day. Probably he's very unhappy at having a 31st birthday in a bad mood, very pissed off. Zero defending, nobody bothered to do anything. We'll get onto this. So a really quick one. So Eric Bailly, everybody is so like hit and miss on their opinions, and I hate it, right? I have said consistently all the way through that Eric Bailly, you get either two modes from him. He's either incredible and has the game like he did the week before, or he has an absolute shocker and does either an own goal or something really drastic, like he'll do instead of like heading it out, he'll try and scissor kick it out or bicycle kick it out or do something stupid. And then on top of that, he's always injured anyway. So people going, oh, he's the next Messiah. He needs to stay. He needs to start instead of Maguire and stuff. We'll get onto Maguire in a second. But he just, why did he stick your leg out then? It just went into the net. It's like, there's no need to do it. And it was that. I was like, cool, it's going to be one of those Bayer games that we're having this 50-50 of him today. And it's just not good enough the way it was. And also he posted this, it is what it is. He posted the picture of him on Twitter doing the own goal, being like, oh, I'm sorry we didn't have a good game. Why have you put that as a picture of you scoring an own goal like you would on a Twitter account, like you've just scored and you're talking? Oh. Anyway, next, to rattle through them quick. Next, Maguire again has been awful. He's had like one good game this season, maybe. That's it. And he hasn't looked the same since maybe last year with the Greece thing, and then the Euros. Him and Luke Shaw hasn't really come back from the Euros whatsoever. He needs to be stripped of the captaincy, and he needs to be dropped from a couple of games to get his head right or whatever it needs to be, because we can't keep having these mistakes at the back. He was given the captaincy too early anyway, I think, out of necessity with the price tag that he came for, and there was no one in the squad at the time that maybe was going to take it. Two silly goals, and that's one of the things that's so annoying at this game. Two silly goals, and City didn't get anything else. So it's like we gifted them the goal at the back post, and Bailly gifted the goal by chopping it for no apparent reason into his own goal. They should have easily scored 5 or 6. I think if they'd had a key striker like a Harry Kane or something, they would have scored a hell of a lot more. Realistically, if they're not scoring and it's two goals that they should have done like a lot more with. Cancelo was a bright spark for them again. Play him left or right, doesn't matter. He's phenomenal at the moment, and it was a real bright spark for them. I'll let you talk quickly about the game, and then I'll talk about the manager situation for a bit.
Sure. You're right. It was an absolute training exercise for City. City didn't make any substitutions, did they?
I think so.
That sums it up.
Why they didn't even need to get in a second gear?
Yeah, do you know what I mean? The players weren't tired enough for Pep to bring anyone on. And arguably, you've got Grealish, Mahrez, and Sterling on the back. If City felt the need to get on and score more goals, then they had 3 perfectly capable goal scorers sat on the bench there. You're right. United were a shambles. They were a mess. De Gea, as he normally does, kept you within touching distance of them. Obviously, couldn't do anything about the Bailly own goal. That's I think with the second goal, Silva's done fantastic there to get that in from that angle. The only way he could score that was by playing it off De Gea.
Yeah.
And I just don't think anyone expected it.
He was just in shock. He could have done a bit better, but you're expecting Luke Shaw to throw something at it to get it out, and that's the point. So because of De Gea keeping us in it, I don't blame him at all.
Yeah, I think there's you don't like to see it, but I think we can definitely see this team starting to not play for the manager. The other thing I want to mention as well is once again Ronaldo was petulant child with that booking at the end there.
Yeah, I think
not necessary.
It's not, but you see that from a lot of players. It's that serial drive to win, and they just can't switch it off. There's so many people that do it.
I get that, but it just looks petulant. He did it against Curtis Jones, and I made the same point there. It looks petulant. Curtis Jones, teenager, as well. Ronaldo has the experience that he shouldn't be doing that. And honestly, sliding in like that, you're lucky that he doesn't hurt anyone. But yeah, I think this team is a team that isn't playing for the manager anymore. Despite Ronaldo's bloody best efforts to carry United, like he's been doing in the European football, I can't see Ole staying.
So I'll interject if you don't mind again. So I've got a few things to talk about, and then I have a statement to end with, more of a little run through. So again, I agree. I think that with the international break, like we're going to talk about lots in this episode, it is the perfect time to transition a manager out and get someone in to have more than a couple of days like Conte this week to try and do that. Ironically, before we came on to do this episode, Ole has been pictured going on holiday to Norway in the international break, as lots of people do. Ironically, though, the last few managers we've done the same thing. When Van Gaal was sacked, he went on holiday. The news dropped the next morning that he'd been fired. So he was out of the country when it happened. So it's a little bit of leeway from that. So we'll see. I think it's likely. There's lots of reports saying it's the Glazers and the board not wanting to get rid of Ole. They can still see the process happening. I think we can see now, as I said, for like 2-3 weeks. Apart from that, I was Ole in, and now it's just gone downhill. The team's not working. They're not playing for him. There's no effort, then there's no point. And it's more a case of when now. So I'd rather do when now and boost that timeline up and try and actually work something and potentially still get top 4 to try and get a Champions League spot. Quickly get onto the managers. So again, a couple of names have been thrown around, some of them really randomly, some of them not. I'll quickly go through them. So the 3 big ones that we've been mentioned for at the moment, or 4 technically, but I think one of them's likely to happen, which is Zizou or Zinedine Zidane. I don't think that's going to happen. We've had, obviously, Ten Hag, who, again, has been linked potentially, but he's having a fantastic season at Ajax, and I don't see him leaving halfway through the season. We've had Brendan Rodgers really heavily linked 2 days ago, and like some apparently informal talks apparently have had. I'm not sure how I feel about that. He does great when he gets to finals, but we've seen him do worse with other big teams before, and I'm not sure that he's potentially the right man. We'll see. Could be proven wrong. That could be a 50-50. I could eat my words. It could be one of them. So I'm not saying fully no, even with the old Liverpool link. And the last one on the list, I think, is the most interesting one for me, because I think it's more likely, and again, apparently informal talks have happened, which is Ralf Rangnick. So most people probably haven't heard of Ralf Rangnick too much. I'm not going to lie and say that I know everything about him or anything like that, because that's just obviously not true. I have heard of him. I do know some of his achievements that he's done. But the reason that he fits so well is because he is that guy that would be coming in as an interim manager until summer. I don't think he'd be taking the job full time, and I think that would be part of the agreement, because he did with like Hoffenheim and Schalke, and most people know him for his work at RB Leipzig. He was those man that came in, completely changed the philosophy and the way they played, and got those teams like promoted up through the leagues into the top of the Bundesliga. He got that, and then he did the job, or he got them to this quarterfinal, or he did this. He's that guy that can come in. So I'm thinking he's probably the more likely one to happen, because you could see him, if they're trying to do Ten Hag, for example, which I would, is my dream to want to replace him if he could. Ralph would come in for a little bit to the end of the season, implement some stuff, and then when they can get the managers on the market to maybe go to a Ten Hag at the end of the season and go, this is it. That's what I'm thinking. But I think fresh blood has to happen, and I think it'd be really interesting tomorrow morning if we wake up after Ole's gone on holiday to see it. My final point, because we've talked about it too much already, is just a simple statement. The United game, or to sum up the United team at the moment, 0 shape, 0 tactics, 0 heart, and 0 idea. We'll move on. I'm just sick of it. Next, we're going to go to the Palace Wolves game, which was 2-0 to Crystal Palace. Again, another 2-0 for them. I don't know if you want to jump on that one.
Yeah, I mean, despite us questioning Vieira, I think he's gotten playing. Special mention, I think, to Conor Gallagher. A lot of people like myself put him in fantasy teams, and he's paying dividends. So yeah, he's playing well. I think Edouard looks serious. Very good player. Yeah, I mean, Wolves are coming in off a winning streak as well. They're not an easy team to beat, but Palace, they're showing grit. Really, they're showing that little bit. Previously under Hodgson, you might have seen them fold a little bit under a bit of pressure, not scoring. Again, I think they're another one of those teams where they might be an injury or two away from a bit of a slump. Particularly, I think Zaha's their talisman. But also, I think maybe Conor Gallagher is probably their most influential player at the moment. Yeah, they're playing really well. I don't have an awful lot of commentary to say on this. Both well taken goals.
Yeah.
They look dangerous throughout,
Yeah.
and Wolves didn't particularly look that deadly.
Yeah, Wolves didn't really seem to turn up that day. They didn't have a lot going for them. Again, yeah, you pointed on it. Vieira has kind of keep going and going and going, and he's got that team going. But again, from the Hodgson era, it's that attacking mindedness, like Zaha and Edouard and Benteke and Gallagher. They've got them working as a unit and working towards their goal of getting more goals than just a 1-0 smash and grab, which maybe was the Hodgson way. Yeah, Conor Gallagher again. Yeah, most people put him in, and now they're going to see it. If not, it's gone up another couple of points already. For people that missed him. Interestingly, though, on FPL again, he's number 2. He's the midfielder. Only Salah's ahead of him in points, so that should say something right in this season. There was 2 big VAR calls in this game, but I'm not going to go into them too much because, in my opinion, I think both seemed about right. I think that.
I'd agree.
It is what it is, and they've got on. I think there's going to be a chance for Vieira's men to start dropping points and stuff, but they're going through a big purple patch at the moment, and that's exactly what they need to get those points on the board. Interestingly enough, they're still unbeaten at home this season. So if they're making Selhurst Park a bit of a fortress and picking up points, then all power to them. But again, Wolves not really doing much, so it wasn't too much competition for them. So the next game we're going to move on quickly, was Chelsea-Burnley, which was a bit of a shock for some people this week, which was obviously 1-1. To say about this, really, like Chelsea had so many chances, and I had a couple of
25 shots.
Was it? And they had a couple of friends that were literally like, I don't know how, like, because people being like, oh, you dropped points. And they're like, oh, yeah, but how have we dropped points? Because some of them were absolute sitters. Chelsea, will be more disappointed than anyone that they're dropping points there, especially on on the reverse from Liverpool, where they could have got more points over them and kept them at the top, looking all pretty. I think that James was obviously another. The fullbacks again. We said this before. Chelsea fullbacks and James as well, getting a ridiculous amount of points, and he's proving himself. So him and Chilwell are really looking something special. But apart from that, it was just one of them. Burnley again. We use the word grit, but gritty performance on a high from the week before winning and getting their first 3 points, and they're just going to continue to do that. Sean Dyche knows how to set up against these big teams. Yes, I think it was more Chelsea squandering chances than anything else, but it is what it is, and they walk away with a point.
Yeah, Burnley played Burnley. Like really, this is what Burnley do. They sit back, they soak up pressure, and the goal. I mean, it was a phenomenal ball into the box, head down by J-Rod, and then Vidra finishing it. I mean, a fantastic goal from Burnley. And honestly, if you sit back and soak up that much pressure, then fair play to grab a point at the end there. And I mean, 25 shots, only 4 of them on target though. What does that tell you? If Lukaku's in the team, does that change? If he's back from injury, do you bury a few more of those chances? Yeah, he's a natural finisher. We've seen this Chelsea team, other than Chilwell and Reece James, struggle.
Yeah, playing the false 9 with either Mount or Havertz isn't as good as when you're missing Werner and Lukaku. And I know Werner doesn't score that many at the moment, but he provides a lot to that team in general and provides a lot to the other striker. So it might be one of them that they're suffering from it. But again, you've had other people in other weeks like Hudson-Odoi step up and actually do absolute bit. So maybe they're just missing some of that spark. And again, maybe it's a bit of a two-shell roulette. We normally say pep roulette, but maybe he's trying too many things out with some of the changes. So who knows? But that's what it is. I think it's just well done Burnley for getting a point there and Chelsea scoring points, and that's really it. So next one I've got down here. We'll try and get through some of these quite quick. Although this one I do have some more talking points on, which was Brighton Newcastle, which is a 1-1 draw. Do you want to start on this one?
Yeah, sure. I think it was probably a fair result. The 1-1 draw. I think Newcastle started the game poorly. I think they started most of their games poorly at this point, though. Eddie Howe watching from the stands. I don't know if this team has got enough to stay up, honestly. I don't think. I mean, I said it last week. If they go down, I'd laugh because of all the money that they have now. But I just don't really see I don't really see any quality. I didn't see a lot of quality, other than the Hayden goal. There wasn't a lot of quality coming out of Newcastle. Brighton again, you know, arguably, had more shots, more on target, more possession. I feel if you're a Brighton fan, you'll feel like you've dropped 2 points there. I feel like you'd expect to have won that. Clear red card for the keeper there. Now I don't know. I mean, if that was me, would I have tried to keep him on my feet? Because if you go through on goal, that is a goal, isn't it? I mean, it's hard to say because it happens at good speed. Little tap like that, it really ruins your momentum, throws you off, hits the ground. But I don't think he looked like he was trying to stay up. I think that was the difference between Newcastle taking 3 points there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they said it on Match of the Day as well. It was like, if I was in that position, then I would totally be trying to open goal, put it in, and secure the 3 points. For me, I think the interesting things, one, the pen for Newcastle is absolutely a pen, and Sanchez, it doesn't look like it on the first replay, but when you see it, it does, and he catches his ankle, so it's fair enough. He's off. I think that the pen that Brighton had, however, was very soft, in my opinion. I'm not sure I would have given that. Yes, there's like contact, but it's really not a lot, and Trossard really makes a lot of it to make sure he goes down and gets the points. But on the whole, Newcastle not taking their ways to win anyway. The big thing for me, after he didn't go round him and get the open goal. The biggest thing was Lewis Dunk's in goal for them, and they don't test him once. They literally don't test him at all.
Right.
So it's like
they have the Shelby having the free kick.
Yeah, just go straight over, diagonal ball, not whipping it in, easy, or not having a shot. And the same as, and there's a corner at the end. Just get it in the mix. If there's no keeper and you're under pressure, get it in the mix. You've no idea how good Lewis Dunk might be with his hands in goal or not. But the fact you don't even test him, I don't think if he touches the balls and he goes in the net is outrageous.
They're a team without any sort of. Obviously, they've got interim manager at the moment until Eddie Howe takes over. But they're a team that is literally just kind of rudderless. They don't know what they're doing. They're everything they can to stay in matches, and I think that's what we got today. Really, they didn't have a killing edge at all.
And I do think you're right. I think Brighton will definitely see that from their hot start as points dropped. Eddie Howe's actually been confirmed a few hours ago, so he was in the stands. Everyone knows it's going to happen anyway when you're sitting with the the chairman and the board and stuff of the club anyway. I'm not sure. I think they still have very much potential to go down, but on the flip side of that, I personally think that Eddie Howe's a really good choice for the job, because I think he's been a great manager for a few years, and he's been trying to find that club to go on slightly higher with more ambition. Yes, it's going to take time, but I actually think Eddie Howe is the perfect person to do that with time, because he knows the Championship as well. So if it does happen, he's there to build and build and build, and it takes a 5-year plan, whatever it takes. I think he's a good man to do it. He'll build a squad around it. He'll use the money wisely and won't be trying to get some ridiculous signings to start off with, because you look at some of his other teams, he has these kind of core players, and especially kind of core English players, especially for Bournemouth. So yeah, time and money to build the squad to get where they aspire to is what I think is going to happen. And, we will see that journey. His first job is, can he turn the floodgates around quickly and stop that? Who knows? I think they're looking likely to go down, but we'll see. But again, another manager roulette of someone coming in over this international break. So the next game that we're going to go to is the Leeds Leicester one. For me here, again, it was, on paper, you thought this would probably be quite a high-scoring game. Two teams that have had on and off weeks, but have a lot of attacking threat, and you thought it might be a bit more of a high-scoring game. 1-1, as we said. Rafinha scoring the goal, which is, I think he was trying to cross it. I'm not sure he actually was trying to go for the bottom corner. Interestingly enough, though, Rafinha's nearly scored half of all Leeds goals this season, so that tells you he's alone keeping them up. You haven't got like Dallas and people like that contributing a lot more this season that they did last season. How Harrison put that one over the bar when it came off his knee. I think the commentator said at the time, if he had 100 times, he'd do very well to sky it as high as he did from the range that he was at. Both teams had so many chances. There was a lot of VAR decisions to and from. So maybe it was a 1-1 is a fair result in the end from everything that happened. But yeah, I think that Leeds had the better chances to put it in. I like the fact that, like last week, we had an absolute, you know, FIFA free kick glitch, if you will. It was like 15 seconds or something. Harvey Barnes is like, "Thank you very much. We'll get you when you're down," to get him back in it. But yeah, I think there totally should have been more goals, but there wasn't.
Yeah, Leeds are struggling this season. I think a lot of teams have figured out Leeds now. I think again, we said it about Brentford this year, Sheffield United a couple of years ago. That you always get this team that comes up and does really well for a year, and then teams start to figure out what's going on with them, how they're
Second
playing.
season syndrome, you drop so hard compared to where you were.
Yeah, I obviously Leeds are missing Bamford as well. In terms of the goals. Yeah, Rafinha's scored as many goals this season now than he had all of last season. So he's on a great run of form. I think he'll go. I think someone will come in for him.
Barcelona.
I think Leeds will struggle to keep players beyond the end of this season because I don't see them doing particularly well for the rest of the season. But you'd be looking for more from Leicester. To be honest, I think they played fairly bang average. I'm usually a little bit whenever we play Leicester. I'm always a bit like, well, I don't really like playing Leicester because they've hurt us before quite badly, and they've got ability and they've got a lot of goals in them. But this Leicester team we're seeing this season just seems a little bit lost.
Just the last few weeks just hasn't seemed to gel enough, whether that's been the Vardy injury and he hasn't come back looking as strong, or Tillman's not getting involved as much. Harvey Barnes has been the only really standout one with Tillman's, and the rest of it just hasn't seemed to be gelling. I don't know, and that could be some unrest in all camps. I'm sure Brendan Rodgers being linked with United Alta isn't helping that situation, but yeah, they do definitely seem off, and they had a good start and now they're very average.
Agreed.
I'll move on here. I'm going to go on to the next game, but before I do, as a message directly to you that we'll get to. Yeah, you know what game's coming up. I want you to talk about the game, talk about the manager, talk about the scenario, and maybe talk about which I know you're going to, where Villa fans thought they'd be, but maybe let's keep it slightly factual, not go too Twitter rant heavy, yeah?
I mean, it is a fact. Twitter Villa fans thought that they were going to be Champions League.
I know, but I've seen some of the interactions you've had, so
yeah, it's been no secret. We've mentioned it before on the podcast, particularly on the My Clubs episode I did. It got a lot of stick over the summer from Villa fans on Twitter because they signed Danny Ings from us. They tried to get Prowsey. They thought they were going to spend a bit of money. They thought, it's a long-term project. We'll get European football this season. And I told them they were deluded then. You did, to be fair. And also, sorry, I should say before we get into this, it would talk about Southampton Villa for anyone that's not worked that out by now, which was 1-0 to Saints. But yeah, carry on. Yeah, they're sat now 3 spaces below us, 4 points behind us. Exactly where I thought they would be. I think that it's always nice to have ambition for your team. I get that, but you need to have a heavy dose of realism.
Yeah, Newcastle, take notes.
Especially when you're a team that isn't traditionally, in the top 6 teams. United, you as a United fan can every season confidently think, we can win the league this season. Before the season starts, you can think, we've got a good chance this season. I don't care what team you are outside the top 6. You don't just go around saying you're going to be Champions League because you don't have the pedigree for that. If you break in, fantastic. The likes of West Ham have done really well last season to get European football. Likely they're going to keep it again this season. Fantastic. Leicester did it a few years ago as well. Brilliant. But the difference is their fan base, didn't start the season like that. Didn't start the season baiting out other clubs. And I said it at the time, just because you spend 100 million doesn't mean you're going to be good. How many times have we seen that? Fulham came up, spent 100 million, went straight back down again. The thing is, they bought Danny Ings. Yeah, right. I'm still salty about it. I'll be honest. He was supposed to be, king of the scummers. He was a childhood Saints fan. His family from around here. We gave him that chance when after his injury ridden career at Liverpool. We gave him the chance to get back. We gave him recovery. We gave him time. And he played. Had a really good season for us. Last season started well off the boil after Christmas. To get 30 million for him, I'll take that. Snap your hand off for it. So it was a little bit of sweet revenge Friday night. I think the game itself was. I think we deserved the win. I'll be honest. It was a game of two halves. Fantastic goal from Adam Armstrong. We've said he just needs to get a few goals in. I think he'll start scoring. You saw with that shot he took, he's a natural finisher. It was, on his weaker foot, left foot, just outside the area, just rifled in straight past Martinez. There was no stopping it, I don't think. The one point, I think the stats make it look more of an even game than it should have been. Now, I say that because El Ghazi should have been sent off. And I think a lot of the threat that Villa had came through El Ghazi in the second half. There's no way he should have been on the pitch, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll cut in quickly just to touch on some of the points as we go through them. I think absolutely right. I've put here El Ghazi should have had 3 yellows. He shouldn't have been on the pitch whatsoever. Although from a more neutral perspective and how the game played out, the El Ghazi Livramento battle was the highlight of the game. It was the back and forth between them, which was really, really good. But yeah, he absolutely should not have been on the pitch. It was bad challenge, then another bad challenge, which didn't get a second yellow, which should have been a yellow, only because he was on a yellow, the ref didn't. And then the dive in the box again, you should have had another one for simulation. Adam Armstrong, again, I think exactly what you said. The only thing I think is you have to see him score next game to keep that form running. Otherwise, he's going to regret that, I think. And the other Armstrong actually had a great chance for a goal and didn't get it.
Oh, yeah, he did. He's rusty.
Yeah, of course. He's come back off it. But I would say, quickly before you jump onto the rest of it, I've got here, though, I think he should have had a pen because I think Villa could have had a pen where Romero's pulling Mings' shirt, and it's like it's not just a little bit; it is a lot of a shirt. And if it was checked, I don't know,
yeah, but I mean, it was checked. VAR did check it, and it wasn't given. Yeah, you're right. It should have been a penalty, but where did that passage of play come from? El Ghazi.
Yeah. No, and exactly, and that's why I think it was fair. But I think
this is the thing. Yeah. I mean, we could go on all day about refereeing in the Premier League because it's certainly an issue. And again, I think more and more teams are now starting to see that there is a problem with consistency in refereeing. On the day, on the night, it's worked out well for us. I think that we still need to start scoring some more. But you know what? This is 4 games unbeaten now, which is a good run for us. We had a hard start to the season. We needed to pick up points in this little patch.
And you are claiming a lot
of
points.
We've got some more hard games coming up. We've got Liverpool and Arsenal and Leicester coming up. We need to get as many points as we can now, so that when we do play the bigger teams, and you know what, I think this whole season there's only been one game we've played badly, and that was Wolves. So yeah, I take nothing away from Villa. They tried. They did try. I think McCarthy made a few smart stops as well. You're right that arguably should have been a penalty. You've seen them given as penalties. I think it's probably it wasn't as soft as the Brighton penalty.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Different referee, different night. That probably would have been given. You're right, but I think that does cancel out the fact that El Ghazi shouldn't have been on the pitch past the 40th minute.
And I do too, and I think so from that perspective, purely because you hate people that are doing that extent of simulation, and if you'd hate it so much, but it's classic football. If he'd impacted the game after, should have been sent off in the controversy. That's what lots of the water cooler chat is built around. But I do think that's a 1-0 win and 3 points for you is probably a fair result, and you picked up some points, so that's a great run from you.
I mean, we're 3 points off 6th now. 3 points off United.
Do you think it's all to do with Hassan Hüttl's wardrobe? I think if you're looking at the form, and how he does it, right, he's gone through a couple of different phases, and now he's dragging at the results. He's gone for the full suit with the tie. So who knows? Maybe it's
definitely seen a stylist.
He
used to be a tracksuit manager. Did a Hassan Hüttl. It was over the pre-season actually. I saw some pretty fruity numbers. Yeah, it was a very spicy outfit. Oh yeah, tartan trousers, the lot. It was.
He's trying it, but it's working. It's working. Don't change it. If it's working, don't change it.
It's working. Look, the team's playing now.
Yeah,
they're playing for real. They're starting to gel.
and people back from injury. So I think if you're grinding out the results, even against some of the bigger teams like you have done so far, you're looking for quite a healthy finish. You just don't want to get a sudden drop off where Armstrong's not scoring, Che Adams isn't piping up, and you've got a few of these issues. But for now, I think you're on a good trajectory. I want to move on to quickly, obviously, another manager. Surprise, surprise. So Dean Smith has been sacked by Aston Villa as well. Bit more of a shock one. I understand why. I think that's 5 defeats in a row. But like considering that what he did with Villa, I think that was a bit more of a shock than the Daniel Farke one from Norwich. Personally, for me, at the current time, again, all these kind of managers we're hearing, they're all thrown into the mix. But the number one I'm hearing is Steven Gerrard, which would be really, really interesting because I think again, maybe not the ambitions that some of, as you mentioned before, some of the Villa fans were mentioning, but I think Steven Gerrard's the real deal as a manager, and I think if they manage to stay up, which I'm sure they will, but I think they're going to finish like a lot lower down than they think they are, kind of Leeds territory. But I think Gerrard could potentially turn that around a little bit, and they could finish slightly higher than that. But I think next season, if he gets a few of his players and builds that on it, I think Villa actually could be kind of pushing a more realistic push than they were thinking this season. So we'll see. But I just thought it was so the fact it happened over this fixture, when it was like all the time it's been Villa fans and Saints fans clashing since pre-season basically, and all the stuff kicked off beforehand, and now it's the complete role reversal, and then you're the one that sinks that final dagger to get their manager sacked.
Love to see it. And did you know that Southampton are the team that have got the most managers sacked? 10 managers have been sacked after losing to Southampton.
And what do you think that is? Do you think that's more because they're bigger teams that are expected to pick points up, and that's the final score?
People just shocked that Southampton actually did something. I don't know. I mean, I think we're probably just that team that straw broke the camel's back a lot of the time.
Yeah,
Ranieri twice.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and I think Mourinho for United was sacked maybe the 2 games after we played.
Yeah, it wasn't that one, but yeah, it was close after that fixture. But
I think Mourinho was only a game or 2 after they played Southampton at Tottenham. I mean,
Mourinho was on his way out a lot more before then, like Solskjaer and stuff like that. But it is what it is. We'll move on. Unless you've got anything else to say.
No, that's probably about it. To be honest, I could talk all day like you could with United. So.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think, as I said, fair result because of what happened with the El Ghazi thing. So we'll move on. Next game, two games left, and most of them pretty quick. Last game with any goals in it, spoiler alert, is the Arsenal-Watford game, which was 1-0 to Arsenal. This one, I don't have crazy amount to talk about. A couple of like nods to players and not really too much else. Like, I think Smith Rowe, super hot form again. He's on his purple patch for sure. Him and Conor Gallagher seem the hottest midfielders at the moment, apart from Salah. Kept on scoring. Saka obviously had a goal disallowed. On the flip side of that, someone who I think has been really poor for 2 games after a purple patch was Aubameyang. 2 penalties in a row missed. I know the one before that he converted afterwards, so it still counted. But that's 2 pens missed. Maybe you want to be changing your take, Arteta. Just a thought. Not necessarily sure you can afford to drop that many points. Again, they're looking a lot more solid. They've obviously got Ben White back again this week. So I think him, along with the new right back, they're starting to, as we said last week, really gel, and that's interesting for them. And they picked up loads of points. Like, they picked up a lot of points. They're looking so much better. They're ahead of United on the table. Fair play to Arteta. Everyone thought he'd be going before Ole. I definitely think that's not going to happen now. 2 things from Watford from my perspective. I think Foster had a superb game, not only because he saved the pen, but I think he had a generally fantastic game. A lot of saves, keeping them in it to make it a lot closer than it kind of was overall. And the last one was just talk about the challenge on Danny Rose, which was, it literally just clotheslined him. He ran into him with his arm out and just took Lacazette, I think it was, out. And I was just like, we've seen that before with Danny Rose. And even when the player stayed down and he kicked the ball out and then was shouting up, stay down, I think you're seeing some of the experience from Danny Rose, but maybe he's just a bit past it now as a player, and he's looking a bit old and making some really rash decisions. I think beforehand, he would have looked good at a club, but maybe that confidence knock with Mourinho and having to train with the under-21s and stuff, unless he can pull it round, you would have got you more money. The same as Ashley Young last week, actually, for Villa. I think Ashley Young had a really bad game last week, and maybe you're seeing some of these older players coming in that are maybe just not up to it anymore as much as they would be. Obviously, you're going to have on and off games. You can't say that about it. You can say it about anyone, but yeah, just a note there.
Yeah, I mean, as a point of that, I mean, I was going to point out Ben Foster. great penalty stop. I mean, it was a bad penalty, but great to stop it. I think what I was going to say is the guy's 38, and his experience, I think, is what makes him still such a top class goalkeeper. He doesn't have the athleticism that the younger keepers have. His distribution is not as good as the younger players. But what he does have is experience. He knows where to be between the sticks. He knows what he is. He knows his limitations, and that makes him a great goalkeeper. The same thing, I think the Danny Rose is experienced too, but he's lost a yard of pace. He's just he's off the boilers at the end of his career, and I think that showed yesterday quite a lot. Well taken goal by Smith Rowe, absolutely. What I will say though is I think Arsenal fans celebrated like they won the league yesterday. It's a 1-0 win against Watford. I wouldn't be too thrilled about it. Southampton did that last week. I just think it was a bit of a they're going the right way, but we said they would. Arteta, Arsenal usually do this. They go on a little bit of a run, then they'll drop off a little bit of a run, then they'll drop off a bit. I think it was a fair result, really. I think if you're a Watford fan, you might have been able to nick a point there, but I don't think you can be too hard done by. They doubled the amount of shots that Watford had. You need to shoot. You need to shoot to score. So, if you're not getting those shots in, you're not doing it. I think Sar's in a little bit of a slump. Maybe teams are looking to take him out of the picture a bit, not give him the space to run into. I just think Watford were nullified.
They've been on a roller coaster too with the whole new manager coming in as expected from the Watford turnover. They went from the loss against Liverpool 5-0 and then pulling back to that crazy 5-2 game. So maybe there's just a bit of unrest in the club, not really knowing which way it's going to go at the moment. So, but again, Arsenal, it's going to be ebbs and flows, but they need to keep that positive streak going as much as possible. If they don't, I think, you might see that dip in form again, and then people start, questioning. And their fan base is one that particularly is the high and the lows, and they're very, very vocal about it. But that is what it is. But I think 1-0, good goal. They move on. Both the teams move on and see what they can do. Last game, which is a 0-0. There's more talking points over challenges again. Again, more penalties and again, managers really. So I think I'm going to start there quickly, as we talked about a lot of managers out, but this is the first game when we've had a manager in. So this was obviously Antonio Conte's first game in charge of Spurs. Again, I hate it when people do it like the Rannick thing when he lost 5-0. He's literally had the training session for maybe 2 days, 3 days. That's it. That's all the time he's had with the boys. He probably doesn't even know some of their first names still, and he's trying to get used to that as well. So I think he will come good. There's going to be a lot of time. He will improve them a lot. I think actually Kane did play better than he has in previous weeks, even though he wasn't, phenomenal and hasn't really kicked off yet. But I think maybe you're seeing the start of that. In terms of the game, I kind of put it was really like two teams that are off the boil. Like Rafa's Everton haven't been great for a couple of weeks. Spurs haven't been great for a couple of weeks, and especially with the manager thing. So it was kind of these two off the boil teams clashing. And you thought there might be goals. It was either going to be 0-0 or it was going to be like 4-4. Like that's in my head where I was going. It'd be like ridiculous either way. He'll turn it around. I think the penalty decision. Again, we talked about players like El Ghazi with some stuff this week. I think Richarlison had a really poor game in terms of showing himself as a person, like simulation again and getting in front of the ref and doing lots of stuff that you don't like to see. And that's really not what we want to see from any players. And that it also just puts your own stock down. People are like, oh, I might have liked you before, but now I think I've got a lesser opinion of you, etc. I think Lloris, again, we can have that conversation. Do you think that was their pen, or do you think? I think it's tough, but I think Lloris gets enough. It's just enough, but it's enough, right?
By the word of law, he got the ball. He touched the ball. He moved the ball away from the net on the trajectory. It is what it is. There doesn't need to be. I think it was Alan crowding around the referee. I think the referee should have booked him for that. I'd feel hard done by if that was me as a Saints fan. But the letter of the law is, he's got the ball.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
he comes through and takes a player as well, but keepers are well within their rights to do that.
he gets the ball first, and it's not like a fingertip. He does like most of his wrist and a bit of his arm kind of brush it, don't they? And it does change direction. So that's the decision. And then again, you see all the handbags and you see all of that stuff, and it's again Richarlison squaring up. I forget which player it was he's squaring up to, and again they're both going with their heads. There's no touching, and then Richarlison in simulation, he falls on the floor trying to get him booked. He gets booked for it. Absolutely correct decision. And again, stop doing that. We hate to see it in our game. And then again, the only other notable thing for me was obviously the Holgate challenge, which actually is really nasty when you look at it, because not only is it the standing leg, which I think luckily for the player that get hit, it's not the standing leg that he catches and gets hit by, which is normally the leg breaker kind of situation. But it's almost Holgate's second leg where he comes round and he's almost a vicious movement on that leg as well. So it's like a double one. And I think it's an over eager. You see this a lot. Like, he's been introduced to the game. He wants to make an impact. He's slightly younger and that gets carried away. But if you get carried away and you're dangerous, then that's what happens. We've seen it a lot of times, and it's deservedly a red card, and it's a nasty challenge and you don't want to see it.
Yeah, agreed. I don't have much more to say on that, to be honest, other than the fact that Tottenham had 0 shots on target. Yeah. But they also kept a clean sheet, which is, not something they've done.
Wish United could buy a clean sheet. So. Well. Anyway, so that's really it. That's all the games for this week. I've got 2 quick points. So I just wanted to quickly run back through again. So in terms of managers, we have got we've lost Daniel Farke from Norwich. We've lost Dean Smith from Aston Villa. We already lost Nuno Esperanto from Tottenham. We're probably likely, unless the Glazers really decide to stick with it, and it's an inevitable thing, I think we're going to see Ole Gunnar Solskjaer sacked from Manchester United as well. The ins, United, we've discussed, could be up and anything, could be interim, could be anything. We've got potentially Gerrard coming into Villa. We've got potentially Lampard coming into Norwich. And we've got definitely Howe coming into Newcastle, and Conte and Spurs. So I just wanted to quickly mention them again, is the international break where you see a lot of managerial roulette and transfers come into it. But I also wanted to quickly mention how strong the Premier League's CV list in terms of managers would be if all of them came true. Like, wow, you're like, it's one of the problems with United potentially looking for another manager. You're running out of these absolutely top echelon managers to pick from, because most of them are taken and they all come into the Prem. So great for neutrals, great for other fans. You've seen some absolute world beaters, and people taking charge of these teams and proving that we are potentially, and as I think we are, the best league in the world. And again, the only other thing I wanted to quickly mention was, it's probably sad times to a lot of people, but it is the international break this week. So obviously there's going to be no Roundup review next week because we don't have any Premier League to talk about. There could be a video going to be put in place. I've got a few ideas knocking around. So you might see Rich, or you might see some other familiar faces coming in. But if not, there'll be a My Club out this Friday, which will be, fingers crossed, I think goes to plan, an Arsenal episode. And then there should be a My Club out on next Friday anyway, if there's not a My Club as well. So there's still lots of content coming for you on Community FC from both of our channels. So that's really been it. That's been the Roundup review. Thanks very much, Rich, for coming on.
Thanks for having me as always.
It's been a pleasure. Love talking football. And, I hate to say this, but I hope that when we come back for the next week, I hope something's changed for my team. And I'd rather not sit here with a depressed angle for me and you with a 1-0 win.
I quite enjoy it. I'll be honest.
Let's see some change. I
quite enjoy it.
But yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for listening to us. As always, we absolutely love doing these shows for you. But yeah, little break and we'll be back. But thank you very much for watching. If you have been liking this content, don't forget to hit that like button. Let us know that you're enjoying the content. Don't forget to get involved in the comment section down below. We're happy to chat about anything. If you're a Villa fan and want to talk to Rich about anything, in a nice way, shaking his head, he'll respond if you're nice. Or want to talk about any of the potential managers coming up, I'd love to hear your thoughts on who you think's going to replace them or why. You want to talk United managers, get involved in the comments, and I'm happy to go down below. But yeah, don't forget to subscribe, hit that big button to make sure you get all this content coming for you all the time. Hit that notification bell if you're like me and forget to know when stuff's coming out. I try to get on a fairly regular schedule at the moment, but if you're out and about and forget, it's nice to pop up. I do it all the time with a lot of football stuff that I watch, content. We'll see you all very, very soon in 2 weeks for that, but there'll be some My Clubs coming out anyway, so there's still content coming at you from Community FC. And enjoy the international break if you're into that and watching some football, and if not, have a nice free weekend, do whatever you want, and we'll see you soon. Thanks very much, guys.